Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today is Mitch Light of Athlon Magazine. He is also the sideline announcer for Vanderbilt football. We thank our presenting sponsor, Wellspire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center. Wellspire offers personal and professional development opportunities in a beautiful facility in the Gulch neighborhood. Stop by for an event with world-renowned speakers or host an off-site event that will wow your team or your clients. We thank our co-presenting sponsor, the Well Coffee House, which turns coffee into water and has a mission to bring clean water to the world. Today's news presented by Sutherland and Belk, a Nashville-based injury law firm. Sutherland and Belk is committed to fighting for those who have been injured in car, motorcycle, and truck accidents. Check them out at sbinjurylaw.com. Well, your football final from Saturday night, a pretty one. Kentucky beats Vanderbilt 38-14. Vanderbilt led by 11 early, but as has been the story of the season, things just kind of fell apart in the second half. The Commodores drop to 2-8 and play East Tennessee State on Saturday. Our guest line is presented by Boll & Branch, started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I've slept on their sheets for years, and they are incredible. They are also fair trade certified, which means they're made under safe conditions by men and women, treated and paid fairly. Try them for a month. You can return them for free, but you won't want to. Once you get the sheets, try the mattress. That was voted best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That is spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code Vandy and get $50 off your first set of sheets. Mitch Light is with us now. Mitch, appreciate you joining us today. Hope you had a good weekend.
I did, Chris. Hope you're doing well.
We are going to spend the day talking football and basketball. What we'll do, because at this point, what else can you say that we haven't said already? We will hit football briefly, go to basketball, and then return to some questions in the mailbag that are more specific regarding football. But let's start with the Kentucky game. What stood out to you in that one?
Just the defense's inability to stop Kentucky pretty much at any occasion. The defense, give them credit early on, held Kentucky to a field goal after the short field after the bad snap and all that first series, and then forced the turnover to go up 14-3. And I'm looking at I meant to pull this up before real quick. I'm looking at the drive chart for Kentucky. After the fumble was returned for a touchdown, 11 plays, 75 yards, 9 plays, 82 yards, 13 plays, 75 yards, 6 plays, 75 yards, 11 plays, 72 yards, 5 straight touchdown possessions, basically through the middle of the first to the end of the third. And then Kentucky switched quarterbacks. And I've always thought, actually, that Eddie Gran, Kentucky's offensive coordinator, is very good. I was impressed a couple years ago when they came down here and with their game plan. They're very creative. I've thought he was one of the more underrated coordinators, and Georgia actually tried to hire him in the offseason. He said no to stay at Kentucky, and his name has come up for some the Cincinnati jobs at like the Group of 5 level. So I think he'll be at least from an offensive standpoint, a good head coach. But just poor tackling, just not enough speed, just not a good day for the Vanderbilt defense. Then offensively, again, after that first drive, or the second possession, but first real drive, nothing going for the offense. It's weird how Vanderbilt struggled so much on offense this year, but has done very well early in games. LSU game scored on the first possession. Definitely the Northern Illinois game, UNLV game scored early. South Carolina, Kentucky. I'm calling the Kentucky the first drive because that was really the first offensive drive because the bad snap really got him behind. So, but after that first drive, Vanderbilt struggled mightily on offense, and obviously just nothing went well, and that basically sums it up.
Yeah, I was going to ask you at least about that early game trend where they get that first quarter touchdown or first possession touchdown, then do nothing. If you got an answer, you're welcome to chime in, but I'm assuming you're as clueless as I am on that. So Bruno Reagan posts on our board some and does some writing for us, and Bruno basically said that and he said this today on our board. He said basically the way that the staff goes into games is they spend their time and energy on game plan, and they just kind of stick to that because that's where they spend their time. So in other words, there's not going to be a lot of second half adjustment because they've already predetermined what they're going to do. And I hope I'm not putting words in Bruno's mouth. I don't think I am. People who are on our site can read it for themselves. But I think basically what he's saying is you have a limited amount of time. They choose to put their focus there. So when that goes wrong, there's really not a whole lot of an answer for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough to, I'd take Bruno. Bruno knows more than I do about it. That seems like a, kind of short-sighted or unflexible way of going about it, especially this late in the season when it's not going well. So whatever the reason, the struggles are mighty after the first half of the first quarter.
Yeah, what's the saying? Retweets aren't necessarily endorsements.
Yes.
So anyway, there's that. Let's talk basketball, and then we'll circle back to football later. What was your take on the Richmond game?
I got to preface this, but I haven't seen the whole game. Unfortunately, I was the way I phrase it, I shouldn't say, I'm a board member at my temple. I was going to say I'm a reluctant board member, but that's not very nice. So I'm a board member of my temple. I'm happy to do it. Just we happened to have a meeting the day of the basketball game. And so I was kind of keeping up with the score a little bit there and getting some text from my son. So I went back and I rewatched some of it. So I meant to go rewatch all of it, just hadn't had time, and probably it's too late now. I guess I was encouraged on a lot of things, especially after I think we talked after the first game. We haven't talked after the Corpus Christi game. That game was more of a struggle than the first game. And, there's no, I don't think either one of these either one of us have any, big expectations for this team. There's just certain things we want to see. How well coached are they? How hard are they playing? Things like that. And I continue to see the things I want to see. I mean, I think in the Corpus Christi game, I don't know if it was defense or whatever, but the other Corpus Christi shot very well from three. Some of that's bad luck, some of that's giving up open threes. So I wanted to see them on the road against a Richmond team that's maybe better than we thought. Who knows? They won yesterday big against a bad team. They're 4-0 or 3-0, but they're probably a middle of the pack or bottom half team in the A10. I thought Vanderbilt showed a lot of resilience, especially coming back late. Did a lot of things well, but clearly didn't seize the opportunity to pick up a road win. Had many chances to kind of put that thing away, different opportunities. I think what you're looking at, you got a team with one great player, one really good player, and then a bunch of kind of role players. And will any of those role players step up and be a good player? Because I think this team needs a third scorer. Cleveland Brown's averaging double figures, but I don't think we call him a scorer necessarily. He's just a guy who's going to get his points on, rebounds, and, they're not going to run any plays for him. Maybe Dylan Dessou can step up and be, he'll shoot better. He's 4 for 17 from three right now. He'll shoot better than that. We've seen freshmen come in and struggle. So, I like what I've seen. The last play of the game was unfortunate. It looked like the pass to Dessou was there. I don't know if the ball got deflected. It was, when you're watching a game on DVR or watching it live, you can stop and rewind it. But when I was watching it later on ESPN3, it's hard you can't really on your computer. At least my computer, I can't really, rewind it that easily. So I didn't go frame by frame to see what happened there. Just, they probably went a second or two too early. And then the ball went right to the Richmond guard, so it was kind of bad luck there. And, didn't love the end of regulation. Saban Lee shot, but Saban had pretty much shut them back in the game there. Aaron Nesmith has been tremendous. His shooting percentages, unfortunately, aren't sustainable. I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen a high-volume three-point shooter, shoot 57% from three. But he has been very fun to watch. And so I guess big picture, Chris, I like what I've seen so far because I really don't have that high expectations for this team.
I don't either, and I don't mean to be a wet blanket on what they did in terms of offense the other night. I'd just say that I think Richmond, was 273 in adjusted defensive efficiency last year, according to Ken Pomeroy, and that was not a team that was actually really just getting after them on the perimeter and challenging the threes. So with that said, I still think that this team is improved. It looks improved. I see more of a a rhyme and reason to things, but there was that. I don't think that this is a team that's going to get 99 points a lot of nights or 98 or whatever it was, even with an overtime period. But to the Neesmith end of things, Mitch, I'm going to be very interested to see how his year goes, because is he one of these? You saw Steph Curry carry a team. Now, I don't think he's going to carry them to the NCAAs, but Steph Curry was a kid that got everybody's attention and still put the rock in the hole consistently. Or it could be like an Allen Houston situation at Tennessee where he was all you had to concern yourself with, and he scored at a high clip. But I'm very anxious to see what his numbers look like at the end of the year, because I have a feeling it's going to be north of 20 per night.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the one thing, and I haven't really thought about it the way you phrased it, the first thought is it's just, once teams scout Vanderbilt more, and realize that you've got to keep Neesmith from getting the ball. I think the fact that Saban Lee is so good at beating his man off the dribble and forces help, that will help Aaron Neesmith. If they didn't have another guard that could beat people off the dribble, then I'd be a little more concerned. But I think, Saban, as he continues to develop, what we talked about him last year is he beats people to score. He doesn't beat people to create. Well, we've seen him create a little bit more this year, and he tried to create for that game-winning bucket to Dessou. It didn't work out. But I think those two guys' skill sets complement each other pretty well there. But, I'm with you. Neesmith is extremely talented, and things come effortless for him, and obviously after a great start, not just shooting well from three, shooting the ball well from two as well, and getting to the line 11 free throws in 3 games is a pretty good number. Saban Lee's got 16 free throws. That's another thing. Struggled from the line in that game. They were a couple free throws away from winning that game. So we saw those struggles last year. I think the key to Vanderbilt's free throw shooting this year is going to be Saban Lee. He's at 75% right now because he's going to be the guy, Lee and Neesmith, but really Lee, who shoots the bulk of that team's free throws.
If I'm nitpicking anything with them on offense right now, I don't think I'd have Matt Moyer getting the green light from you.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, he didn't play much against Richmond. And I don't know, Moyer might be the type of guy that shoots the ball well in practice, and because he shot a lot under Bryce Drew too. And, he kind of makes just enough, when you're watching the game, like, he's only 2 for 9. I think he made both of them were against Corpus Christi, but he banked one in. But it's like certain guys, you think they're always going in. With him, I think it's never going in. And that's just not a knock on him. It's just he doesn't really have the best form. And he's got a place on his team. He's got a place on pretty much any team, with his, ability to rebound the ball. I think he drew 3 charges in the first game. He's clearly a well-liked guy, a good team leader. But I do not believe he should be shooting threes. And I don't know if it was the flow of the game or the matchups or whatever, but he did not play much against Richmond. I'll be interested to see what his minutes are in the 2 games this week.
The wild cards to me at this point, and it's more the first than the second, because I think the second is going to contribute, but it's Obinna and Dessou. And if Obinna can stay on the floor, which I'm not super hopeful, I don't think you go from averaging a foul every 2 minutes to the light comes on and you're suddenly available to stay out there for 30 a night, but who knows? We'll see. Maybe there's an in-between in there somewhere, because I think he is a productive scorer when he plays. So there's that. And the other one is Dessou, who I really do think end of the year is going to be a fixture in their starting 5. Now, I say that, it's like Stackhouse says, you have your starters and you have the guys who start. And if you want to put it that way, I think he is a starter, as in he's one of their best 5. If he can give them, say, the last 10 games of the year where he's averaging 10, 12 points a game, which I think is possible. I don't think that's going to happen right now, but if he's that kind of guy at the end of the year where he is getting that over the last few games, I think that would be a really good sign, and that's a place that they could use some help.
Yeah, I agree. And, he has started the last 2 games, and he was on the court late. I don't want to put too much stock in his 2 free throws, but I like the way he sank 2 free throws to start the overtime period. A lot of times freshmen struggle from the line, and those were high-pressure free throws. So that was good to see there. I'm with you. I think he's the guy that He's averaging 4 points, 7 points in 3 games right now. My guess, I think that's a good number over the last 10, 15 games. I would bet that he averages double figures over the last stretch of the season.
The schedule coming up, they've got Austin P on Wednesday. To me, that's a game that concerns me a little bit. If I'm Vanderbilt, Austin P could beat them, I think, legitimately. It has Terry Taylor, who is potentially the OVC Player of the Year. I like their coach, Matt Figure, a lot. And then they get one of the relative breathers against South Carolina State on Friday. I will not be there for that. I will be out of town. And then it's what? I think, is Tulsa the next one?
Monday is Southeast Louisiana, and then
Okay.
Tulsa a week from Saturday.
I'm looking on my Google calendar. It's not all in front of me. So that's really, those are going to be, Austin P will be a moderately challenging game. The next two should be pretty easy wins. I don't think either of those teams are very good. And then Tulsa is one of those, could be an NIT type teams. Frank Haith is the coach. That's the one. And again, that's next week. So we will podcast between now and then. To me, the Richmond game was a little bit of a litmus test. If they win it, I think that's a big win. They didn't, but they came as close as humanly possible without doing it. So I think that's a good sign. So the Tulsa game and the Austin P game, to me, are kind of legitimate markers on what they are.
Well, I think you got Tulsa, Buffalo, and Liberty, 3 consecutive games. I think all 3 of those are, Liberty's actually very good. They're 85 in KenPom. Buffalo's 99. Tulsa's 117. So I think if Vanderbilt can sweep its next 6 games, that would be wins over Austin Peay, Tulsa, Buffalo, Liberty. That shows you they are, making strides and can be, competitive. It's probably too much to expect wins in all those games, but I think they're not named programs, but they're good teams.
Okay, yeah, here's the order just to restate it. It's Austin Peay Wednesday, South Carolina State Friday, Sela Monday, Tulsa the next Saturday, and then it's Buffalo Tuesday, Liberty the next Saturday. You're right. That 3-game stretch, actually a 4-game stretch, if you want to go to Loyola of Chicago, which is in Arizona. And then it gets easier. They get Wilmington on the 21st, Davidson on the 30th, and then SMU. So really, yes, all the next step up in competition, as we said a couple of weeks ago before the season started, really comes in December. But I think, I don't know, I think if they go 3-0 the next 3 games, I don't know, what do you think? Two out of 4 between Tulsa, Buffalo, Liberty, Loyola, Chicago, that would represent maybe a good stretch. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard to say. You just got to see how they play, too.
Yeah. I mean, all we can guess is right now, but
you want to hear about a weird team so far this year, Loyola Chicago. They lose by 24 at Furman. They lose at home to Coppin State. And then they beat St. Joe's by 17, and St. Joe's just beat Connecticut, who just beat Florida. So go figure.
Yeah, by the transitive property, we're going to have Vanderbilt in the top 25 before long.
Yes, exactly.
What do you make of Florida?
I don't know. I watched some of that game, decent part of that game yesterday. They're not shooting the ball well at all. And they are a small team. And when you're playing small ball, you got to shoot the ball well. And I saw someone post their percentages are awful because UConn's nothing special. And they went up to UConn, and it was a big game for UConn. Good crowd there because UConn has not been drawing well. I watched the St. Joe's game, and there weren't many people there. So it was a good atmosphere for a Sunday afternoon game at UConn, and it was close. Florida cut the lead a couple times, but just had a chance to win the game late, just couldn't make shots.
By the way, Austin Peay is 218 in KenPom as of Monday afternoon. It has beaten Oakland City, and then it lost its other 2 games on the road to a decent Western Kentucky team. And at Tulsa, the Western Kentucky game was a 22-point loss, so that's bad. The Tulsa won a 7-point loss. So anyway, that's kind of the state of things for Austin Peay coming into Wednesday. Mitch, anything else on hoops before we go to the mailbag?
Not really. Yeah, no, not really. Looking at the stats, and I think we covered most of it for now.
Okay, our mailbag is sponsored by Vanderbilt fan and independent insurance agent Josh Minton of Brentwood. Are you in the market for auto, motorcycle, home, renters, or landlord insurance? What about life or commercial insurance? Josh has you covered with any of those. Call him at 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him on Facebook. That is facebook.com/JD Minton HQ. He's my insurance agent. Tell him you heard about him on our program and make him yours as well. VU Titan says, which football season is worse, 2014 or 2019?
Good question. There's two ways to answer that. One is 2019 because it's the sixth year under the staff, so you wouldn't expect it. But 2014, I guess, was a sobering year, coming off back-to-back 9-win seasons to struggle as much. I think probably 2014. I don't know, just the way the season opened and just what 0-8 in the SEC, right? I mean, just the lack of being competitive. I'm checking the 2014 was
I've got first of all, it's unbelievable we're having this conversation. Second of all, I've got some stats in front of me that compare the years. Okay, that team was 0-8 in the SEC. It lost its average game by 22.6 points in the league. This one is 1-6. I think these numbers are accurate. If they're not off by much. It has been outscored by 25.3 points in SEC games. And I don't have a strength of schedule in front of me either that's updated, so I need to get that. But anyway, overall, that team got outgained, that team being 2014, by 110 yards a game. This one got outgained by 186. Now, I know for a fact this schedule is tougher than that one, but still, again, it's ridiculous we're having this conversation. I believe this team is 109 or 111 now in Sagarin. That one was 120. So it's bleak either way.
Yeah, neither season ideal.
No, that's one way to put it. Dusty Orleans says, what's your biggest takeaway from the overtime loss to Richmond for basketball? What do you expect to see improve for next game? I think we hit most of that, but if there's a pointed question in there that we didn't exactly get to, have at it.
Biggest takeaway is probably maybe the toughness of being on the road, falling down 7 late, battling back, to force overtime. Did not know how this team would react on the road. And based on the level of competition, it was the best game they've played. So, consistency, I think, what improvement I'd like to see, defensive improvement. I don't think it's clearly not just lip service. Jerry Stackhouse means it when he says his teams are going to play good defense. Other teams are shooting the ball pretty well, against Vanderbilt so far. So just I guess consistent improvement on defense would be the things I'm looking for.
Mitch, this next question I will answer for you, and if you've got anything to add, I'll let you do it. But Vandy Nash says, how aware are the players of the coach's post-game comments from the press conference? Based on the texts and things that I saw, I would say very.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I literally don't know because I didn't, as I said many times in this podcast, I'm not in the media, in the press room. I'm in the locker room waiting for Coach Mason to come back from his post-game press conference tonight. I was at the game. Not like I went home and read all about it or read the quotes, so I didn't know anything about it. And I have zero interaction with the players once I leave the locker room, so it's not like I would know. And I do want to say, on a negative day, I want to say thanks to Alan George, the defensive back who scored the touchdown. It's always very difficult when you lose the game to interview. The guys are bummed. They don't want to, they don't like dealing with the media after they lose. It's the first time I believe I've interviewed Alan George, did it after the game, and he was great. Answered the questions. There's different, as you know, Chris, there's different ways guys can answer the question. They can answer the question in 10 words, or they can answer the question. They understand what you're asking. And he was great. So he made my job a lot easier, and I was happy to see Alan George score. He's a good kid, and I wanted to thank him. Not that he's listening, but I want to give a shout out to Alan George.
Yeah, they made him available in the post-game press conference, too. I would agree with that. Found his comments to be the same way that you did. And it's kind of a funny, people that don't know, Vanderbilt's media relations head now is also named Alan George. And
Yes.
he tweeted out something. It was pretty. Allen's a witty guy. He tweeted out something about like here's your Allen George highlights for the day or something like that. That had his
Yeah, I
his
saw that.
fumble return, which was we got a kick. What would have been great is if Adam Sparks had stuck with his commitment.
Yes.
Because then we could have had a field day with Allen George, Adam Sparks, Adam Sparks.
Yeah, and then find a quarterback recruit, Larry Leathers.
That would be that might be a little too much to. Hey,
That'd be
finding a
weird.
quarterback recruit right now it might be
Yeah,
tough.
that'd be
But
weird. Yeah.
anyway, Doorfan says, how do you reconcile Mason's comments at SEC Media Days with his comments at the press conference last Saturday?
I don't think you really can. I don't know how premeditated his comments were the other day. You'd have to ask him. I don't think if this is, I think he's been at Vanderbilt long enough to understand the expectations and what he believes he can get done. Like coming off a bowl season last year, like I don't, if he'd been to one bowl season and then had 3 straight losing seasons, maybe those comments make more sense. But after coming off of bowl seasons 2 or 3 and him talking high expectations this year, that's what caught me off guard, if that makes sense. It's not like a coach who'd been here for a long time and realized, what, I can't get it done or we can't get it done here, so the expectations are too high. For all the, negatives of the Derek Mason era, I guess if that's the right word, he has been to bowl games twice and, 2 times in 3 years. You look at the history of the program, hasn't been done. Now I know there's 12 games now, and up until about 10 years ago, there were only 11 games. So there's been some good things done. So it's not, he has experienced some successes.
Well, this is neither good nor bad. It just is. He has never, I don't think, once tempered expectations going into a season, starting from his first.
Right. And that was, the first is the one that really you came back to bite him because, it was clear from the get-go that team was, for a lot of reasons, not very good. This year on paper, it was difficult to see. Now, I was fooled a little bit by the quarterback position. I really thought that while Kyle Shermer would be missed with the downfield passing and the passing game overall, that they could make up for it because I thought whoever won the job, and I've said this many times on the podcast, would add a lot of mobility to the position, and they'd reintroduce, the running game from the quarterback position. But that clearly has not happened. Now, I'm not saying by any stretch Mo Hassan would have been the answer, but I would love to see this offense down the stretch if Mo wouldn't have gotten hurt because, he did bring some energy and bring a dimension that they were lacking.
Yeah, my opinion, it is opinion, but based on what I'm hearing, I'm surprised if he gets cleared.
Yeah, I've heard different things that he's still in concussion protocol, I believe. It's not like he's given up on the season and stuff, but I wouldn't, he just has to make a decision. I'm working with the doctors after having a concussion last year if he wants to try to play again.
Yeah, I don't think it's lack of desire.
Yes.
Mitch, anything on college football that stuck out this weekend?
No, got home, watched pretty much every play of the Baylor Oklahoma game. That was entertaining. You could sense it coming in the second half. I don't know how much of that game you watched, but once Baylor fumbled on its first possession in the second half and Oklahoma scored again, you could kind of sense that coming. So, the 2:30 starts for home games are fine, or the 3 o'clock, 2:30, whatever. But they're the worst for me as far as viewing games. Like if Vanderbilt plays at 11, get home, early, late afternoon, watch all the night games. If it's a night game, you can watch the early games. But when Vanderbilt plays midday, it really it hurts my viewing. So I didn't watch a ton except for the night games. But that was the one game that stuck out. And didn't watch any about Auburn, Georgia. Obviously, I followed it. I know what happened there. Enjoyed watching Oklahoma Baylor.
Yeah, I'll take 11 o'clock starts every week if I can get them because that gives me my day to watch other games. But you're right. You get one of those and you're just, you miss most of the good stuff.
Yeah, so I don't mind I like actually night games at home, 11 a.m. games on the road are the best for travel reasons.
I want to go back to Baylor. What do you make of Matt Rule? Because this would seem to be the classic quote unquote, go take a better job after this season, unquote situation. There's a lot of things about Baylor University I don't like in the way that it has done a lot of things with Art Briles and such. And especially if you're going to purports yourself as a Christian university. And I say this as a Christian, so I'm not downing Baylor for that reason, but I find a lot of inconsistency between beliefs and actions. But anyway, where they are now, Baylor's got a great new stadium. He's winning there and winning big right now. They're exciting. He's in a good part of the country. There's a lot of things going for him. Is that one of those things where he should seek the next opportunity, or is that one of those where you say, well, if you have some down years at Baylor, they're not going to run you off like just happened to Willie Taggart at Florida State, and evidently you can win at a high level there, at least judged on what he's doing right now?
I think most people believe that he will stay at Baylor and then eventually jump to the NFL. I mean, he interviewed for the Jets job last year, and depending on who you believe, was going to take it, but the Jets front office was trying to dictate some of his staff hires, and he said, screw that. So he didn't want that there. So I think, he was with the Giants as an assistant before Temple hired him. He has some NFL in his background. I think he would be will be an NFL coach, something to watch. If James Franklin were to jump to, say, USC or something like that, Matt Rule played at Penn State. So if I was a Baylor fan, that's the one I'd be worried about for as far as leaving for another college job.
Mitch, anything else we did not get around to today that you find worthy of discussion?
Not with you, Chris. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that just goes without saying.
I haven't had a discussion with you yet, but we've been doing this about 5 years. One of these days I will.
Has it been 5 years?
Has it? I think so.
I probably have. I mean, this is the 5th year of the podcast. I think we're at or over 700 episodes, and now that I think about it, I think I did have you on from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think so. So obviously it's been memorable for you, but no, that's it.
Obviously, and you as well. So
yeah, covered all the hot topics.
Okay, Mitch, tell people where they can find you on social media and where they can get their issues of Athlon magazine, for college basketball and anything else that may be around the corner.
Well, our college basketball magazines are still on newsstands probably for a few more weeks. Or you can buy them at athlonsports.com/store, Twitter, Athlon Mitch, and that's about it. Already getting started. Well, not yet. Starting to plan the baseball magazine. So, baseball just ended. So, but we'll be working on that before we know it.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yes, I enjoy the baseball magazine a lot, except it stinks because it's over the holidays. And
yeah, that's one of those where you're kind of in a no-win spot because
So
hopefully the free agent market will settle sooner than it did a year ago.
It never does, but we can hope.
Where did you guys have the Nationals picked last year?
Win the World Series, I think. No, I don't.
Of course.
I got it right here. If you hang on, I think because I think I picked them like 2 years ago or 3 years ago to win it, and I don't even know if we had them in the playoffs. Hold on.
Well, they barely had themselves in the playoffs. So
actually, we picked them to win the East. No, okay.
Very nice.
Picked them to win the East, which they didn't do. But picked the Dodgers over the Cardinals to win the World Series.
No, you mean for the NLCS?
Yeah, Dodgers over the Cardinals. Dodgers over the Astros to win the World Series.
Which is what everybody had before the playoffs, overwhelmingly.
Yeah,
so you were pretty on target there.
So,
thanks for joining us, Mitch.
All right, man. Talk to you later, Chris.
Thank you for listening to the Vandy Sports Podcast. Just a reminder, our podcast is supported by site subscriptions at vandysports.com, also podcast sponsorships. If you would like to subscribe to the site, there is tons of content that you don't get on the podcast. We are running a special offer right now for the holidays, so you can either do that for yourself if you are not a subscriber, or you can buy a gift for someone else. Go to vandysports.com and check out the details on the front page. If you're interested in a podcast sponsorship and have a business or cause to promote, email me at chrislee70@gmail.com. I'm Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. We appreciate you listening, and we'll have several more episodes that we will drop coming later in the week.